First thing you're going to do once you have your reference photo printed out is you're going to cut the white paper off of it so that it's just the picture, and do this as accurately as you can. Try to stay right on the edge. It's really important to do that so that you don't cut off some of the image, and the enlargement is as accurate as it can be. I'm going to line this up exactly with the corner of this paper I've selected that I want to use. So I've got this edge lined up right with that paper, and I've got this edge lined up right with that paper. It's actually a little bit off. I'm going to scoot it. It's really important that this is accurate. So you might want to have a friend help you hold this. And then you're going to take your ruler, and it can be in inches or centimeters. It really doesn't matter. Just stay consistent with whatever you choose. And I'm going to lay the straight edge so that it's exactly going through that corner of the picture, and then I'm going to pay attention to the opposite corner. I need it to go right through this diagonal corner, exactly at that corner, and that's the line I need to use to figure out my scale factor. When I enlarge my picture, I want it to be as accurate as possible. All right, now that I've got my ruler laid exactly where I need it to be, so it's right through this corner, right through that corner, actually slide up a little bit so it starts right on that measurement. If I want to check my math, just to make sure it's accurate. If you don't and you want to use art teacher math, you don't really have to have it right at the start of your measurement here, but I have it right at the very beginning of the first centimeter. So I've got it lined up perfectly. It's going through both corners exactly as close as I can make it. And now I'm just going to decide like how big I want my picture to be when I finish my drawing, like how big I want to make this into my drawing. So the minimum is 10 inches by 13 inches. So I'm doing this in centimeters, but I kind of have an idea, 10 inches by 13 inches. So I'm going to go maybe a little bit bigger than that. I'm going to pick right here, maybe 43. I'm gonna make a little dot right at the 43 mark. Cool. All right. So we can kind of already envision like how big our paper is gonna be. It's gonna be about like that and like that. But now we just have to mark it so that it is accurate. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a straight line through that point. And one way I could do that is by creating 2 points, but the other way I can do that is by using the straight edge of the ruler along, I'm going to do it on this side because I'm right-handed. We're not actually measuring anything, we're just using the straight edge of the ruler. So I'm making sure that this straight edge is lined up with this straight edge. It's exactly parallel to the bottom edge of my paper. So I'm going to make sure it's really accurate, that it's not like crooked at all, that straight edge is right on the straight edge of the paper, and it's touching and going through my point that I made. That looks pretty close as I can be. So I'm going to hold that ruler down really firm because I don't want it to wiggle on me. And I'm just going to lightly drag that pencil down that edge of the ruler. So it gives me the side of my paper measurement. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing coming from this straight edge through my dot. So it doesn't matter, again, I'm not measuring anything this time. I'm just using the straight edge of the ruler and this straight edge of the ruler to make a line that is perpendicular to this edge of the paper, if that makes sense. So I'm going to really take my time lining up this straight edge and making sure that this edge of the ruler goes through the point that I made. So I'm going to line it up perfectly here, perfectly parallel, or if we think about it this way, perpendicular. And then it looks like I gotta slide it over just a smidge, so I'm going straight through my dot. Make sure I'm still lined up here. Looks good, looks good. Now I'm gonna draw my line. And that gives me a proportionate enlargement of this if I wanna draw it bigger on here. So that is what we call scale factor, and that is the art teacher math way of doing it. If you wanted to check your math, there is a way to do it. I'm not going to go over it in this video. But if you do these things very accurately, if you cut the edges of your paper off very clearly, If you make sure your picture is lined up exactly with the corner of your paper when you are laying your ruler down, really make sure it's lined up perfectly. Make sure your straight edge is going through each of the corners of your photograph. If it wiggles around at all, you've got to take some time to line it back up. Make sure your ruler's going through this corner, through that corner, and then whatever point you pick along the ruler up at the top, you can just make sure that you're drawing a line that is perpendicular to this edge and perpendicular to this edge by using the straight edge of the ruler and lining up with the paper. And the next thing I want to do is draw some very, very light grid lines to match the grid lines on here. So I am going to use a ruler. And the nice thing about using the measurements that I gave you, so I had everyone pick 4 sections for columns and 4 sections for rows. And that actually is really nice because it simplifies everything. You really don't have to do a lot of math here. You just have to figure out the halfway point a few times. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna just use centimeters and see how that pans out here. And I'm making sure that the beginning of the centimeter is at the edge of my paper and not the edge of the ruler. So I'm gonna scoot that back over so that my math is accurate. And it looks like we are at 25.6 centimeters. So math challenge people, you can use your calculator. So 25.6 divided by 2 is 12.8. So now I'm gonna find that on my ruler here, and I'm gonna make a mark right at the 12.8. And then in order to make sure I'm making a straight line, I'm gonna come up a little higher on my paper, and I'm gonna make sure that the centimeter is right at the edge of my paper. And I'm going to find that 12.8 right there. And that way I know that I'm in the center, because I can connect 2 points to make sure that I am in the center. Otherwise, if we only have 1 point, there is a big risk that we're gonna draw our line all crookedy. So I'm gonna make sure to push really lightly with my pencil. The way I'm doing that is just holding the pencil loose and kind of holding it towards the end so it forces me to push light. All right, so I need 2 more lines. I'm just gonna find the halfway mark from here to here. We're gonna measure just this section this time. So I'm gonna make sure my ruler's in the right spot. And I know that's 12.8 because I just found that to make my mark. So I'm just gonna divide that by 2. Now I've got 6.4. 6.4, we're gonna mark it right there. We're gonna slide her up. We're gonna find 6.4 up here. Right there. I'm gonna double check down here. Yeah, I got it. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here. It's the same measurement because this is also 12.8, so just divide it by 2. So this time we're gonna line up the edge of our centimeter mark to the first line that we drew. And we're gonna find our 6.4. We're gonna do that again up here. 6.4, boopity boop. And now we're gonna draw our next 2 lines. So that divides. Make sure your ruler's in the right spot on both of your points, otherwise you'll be crookedy. Hold your pencil loose and draw your next grid line. And again, line it up carefully. Make sure the ruler's in the right spot on both points. And draw your line nice and light. Now I have 4 equal sections to match these 4 equal sections. And then I'm just gonna turn everything this way and do that same thing so I can get these 4 sections mapped out. And then you're good.